Good morning, it's Jonathan Bauer with the Week Ahead report. That's the War Report. Talk about recap of last week's events. We talk about up-and-coming economic events of any importance, and also talk about current themes that have been engulfing the market, and to see if we can get a trade out of them, which is probably one of the keys. Okay, let's have a look. Let's get into it. First of all, let's have a little bit of a recap. On what happened on Friday, just so we get our minds all sorted out. Well, there we go. Okay, let's just get that. Alrighty-ho, just the Dow basically last night, on Friday night, closed down a little bit negative. There it is, just coming up now. Dow was down 0.74%, 1252, 12,512. The S&P was off 0.77%, the Nasdaq was off 0.71. Pretty negative in Europe. Top 50 there was down 36. FTSE was down 7. The CAC was down 36, and the DAX was down 91.41. Further afield, though, looking through down on the Australian market, bit of a negative night. The SPI closed down 39 points, 4,701. Just looking a little bit negative in itself, so I tend to be a little bit cautious concerning the equity markets. Okay, let's now have a look at the dollars, the currencies, and I guess the main thing for me here obviously is that dollar index, and I'm of the opinion that it remains relatively well bid for the foreseeable future, and you can just get a sense of this sort of price action here, probably suggesting we're heading up through 76.40, maybe even onwards from there. As a result of that, it could see a little bit of change in what that Aussie is doing. And as you can see, it did actually trade quite nicely with the dollar index. So I can actually see this trend being broken, and a little bit more of a continuation for that Aussie to trade lower. Dollar yen, exceptionally frustrating, but this sort of price action I think is quite good, and probably expect a move up through to 82 in the not too distant future. How that'll affect gold, and we look at commodities, and this is interesting because although the dollar is firm, gold's had this terrific move, and there you can see it. So it's very much its own sort of range, and this sort of price action, which I have talked about at length, is quite bullish. So we are long, and if anything here, probably a move to the top side. Now, you've got to have your stops in here, or even below there, or wherever, because if this fails, it's quite a failure of some magnitude, and that does send it rocketing lower. But you've got to respect this move, and you've got to trade with it, and that's what we have done. So stay close to that. Similarly, when you look at it, for instance, crude, once again, respect it. Even though the dollar is firm at the moment, you've got to respect some of these moves. We are and will remain short crude for the foreseeable future. It seems to be quite bearish particularly on Friday night when she had that huge fall, but as you can see, she's bounced up quite aggressively towards the close. 95 remains the key for me on this one. You can't do much, it just remains very volatile around this level. I'm happy to remain short on that. Copper, as you can see, copper had a very strong move, up $4.85 or 1.2% even today. Now that is some reports coming from the States, which are quite supportive. Demand, but you want to see it, and I think it's more of a supply issue. So let's run with that at the moment. This sort of area here suggests it's a little bit overdone, and we are core short, believe it or not, copper. But as I said, respect these breaks because you can set the cat amongst the pigeons. Okay, looking at some of the commodities, we'll just quickly look at corn, wheat, and soy because we have got positions in all of these. We are long. And as you can see, corn out of the blocks this morning, up 1.57%, and I still like that move quite a lot. Very strong move there in corn, and that will challenge the highs, and we're on record for saying that it will, and I'm quite happy to suggest that will continue. There's corn, exceptionally volatile there, but still like it. And soybeans, this movement, we issued a warrant on Friday on the soybean, and 1378, down a fraction here, but as you can see, we certainly tried to get down there, so more sideways to price action before she does eventually try to head onwards and upwards. Okay, as with the week ahead report, I guess the most important things is what we actually feel is actually coming out, and this week in terms of economic data, and I guess that's obviously the key, always has been, And if you look at just the numbers which are coming out, here we go. I guess the most important ones there, in fact we haven't got a lot of data, and that's why I've sort of rambled along about some other themes. Leading index in Japan is probably quite important. PMI across Europe, pretty exhaustive in terms of that, but obviously very important just to see whether or not and how Europe is actually trading. A bit of a key there because of the sovereign risk concerns that we've had. And on Tuesday, Germany has quite a lot of data there, very important, and I guess most important is the IFO Business Climate Index. That's something to keep an eye on. IP, obviously, in the Eurozone. In the States, new home sales for the month, obviously important data there, just to see whether or not we can climb out of the concerns that we have there. You do notice that we have a lot of the Fed doing a lot of talking. The boys are pounding the pavement, just trying to get things right. In Australia, on Wednesday, we've got consumer inflation expectations, construction work. Lots of data in the UK, GDP, and all those, ECB, durable goods orders, all that sort of stuff now, which is very important. In the States, just to see in CapEx as well. And we've got some data out of Japan, markets looks a little bit, expecting obviously weak data out of Japan for the foreseeable future. CapEx, capital expenditure in Australia on Thursday. Some more data out of Europe, but we've got obviously more data, inflation data, GDP index and personal consumption out of America. CPI out of Tokyo, obviously that's going to be quite important. It'll actually be seen interesting if we do an uptick in those inflationary expectations, because that will see the reconstruction underway, and I think that's very important. Okay, business climate in Euro and personal income and some pending home sales in America on Friday. So I guess, as you can see, there's not a lot of data to get our teeth into this week. And that often suggests the markets will just trend sideways, because we can't get, all we're doing is retesting the themes that we already have in play. If we still get that growth which we need in Europe, if we don't get it, well then, we come under pressure. Debt concerns remain an issue there, still a bit of an issue. In the States, home sales. So we might be this reiteration field, but one thing we do know is the Fed is out there at the moment trying to educate the market in terms of how it feels. QE2, QE3, I don't think so. I actually still feel that the dollar policy is one which will help the economy more than just continuing to issue or particularly put more money in the system. So I think that to me is an important thing, and it's a theme which we introduced a little while ago, and the dollar index seems to be playing that fiddle at the moment. Okay, that's about it from me. I hope everyone has a great week, and we'll certainly talk to you later, and happy trading. Bye for now.